February the 8th, and I'll call the open session to order and call for a moment of silence. Thank you, and I'll call on our clerk to give the processes for tonight's meeting, to this afternoon's meeting. Ms. Furry?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. For your information, Sandra Frey will be recording the minutes in eScribe this afternoon and conducting the votes. Should we have any technical issues during the meeting, please be patient as we try to resolve them. If we are unable to, then we will carry on with the meeting, provided that the live stream is still operating and all members of council staff and the public are still able to fully participate. I will now conduct a roll call to ascertain which members of council are present. Mayor Drew is present. Councillor Watton, are you present?
I am present, thank you.
Councillor McDougall.
I am present, thank you.
Councillor Guido.
I'm here, thank you.
Councillor Ross.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Kiesbrink.
Present.
And Councillor Brown.
Present.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I can confirm that we have a quorum for this meeting. I will now list the staff who are present in alphabetical order. Adam Dubecki, Carol Coleman, our CAO Ken Nix, Kevin Heritage, Lori Bowers, Chief Burney, Robin Prentice, Sandra Frey, Shauna Cornish, Terry Barton, and of course myself. Are there any other members of staff present who I did not mention?
I believe is Laura Barton here now?
I don't see her yet, Madam Mayor.
I think she's having trouble getting into the public session of Teams, if someone can help her.
Okay.
Lee, I'm here, Amy Coughlin, Library CEO.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay.
Okay, as in previous electronic meetings, I will now review the rules for the meeting. Please mute your microphone while not talking. This will avoid any background noise that may occur where you are and will avoid any echo of the audio. Please use headphones, as this will also improve the audio quality. If you would like to speak, please use the hand raise function in the meeting. The mayor will then call upon you when it's your turn. For members of council, if you leave your computer, please let the mayor know so that quorum can continue to be met. When moving or seconding a motion, please use the hand raise function in the meeting and the mayor will announce who the mover and seconder are. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. We will be using an electronic voting process during today's meeting. At the appropriate times, Sandra will announce that the voting is open and council members will be asked to make a selection. Once everyone has voted, Sandra will announce that the vote is closed. If for any reason a council member is unable to vote, please announce your vote verbally and say in favor or against. If the electronic voting system stops working for any reason, we will revert back to the mayor asking each council member for their vote. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my opening statement. Madam Mayor, you may be muted.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the nature thereof? Hands up. Seeing none, we'll move on. Earlier this afternoon, in the continuing interest of transparency and open government, I'm reporting in public session any outcomes from today's closed session meeting earlier this afternoon. As a result of our closed session, I wish to report the following. Council considered a report with respect to community services restructuring. Questions were asked of staff and a recommendation was approved. Further information on the restructuring plan will be made publicly available in the future. Thank you. Any announcements from council and staff? Council? The hands up is not working again. I see Ian and there is somebody else. So Councillor McDougall?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to make an announcement. I have an unconfirmed report that I hope is true, which is Dagmar and Lake Ridge ski resorts are set to open on February 14th, according to Councillor Pam Beach from Oxbridge.
Whoa.
Yes. Yeah, whoa. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I see another hand up, but I don't see who that is. The hands up function worked at our earlier meeting, but it's not working now. So was there another hand up somewhere?
Madam Mayor, it was Chief Burney with his hands up. I could see it on this side.
I'm asking for council right now. I have Chief Burney, I know that. Any other councillors? Okay, I would just like to say that Scugog now has a beautiful skating oval and rinks at the waterfront in Port Perry. And it's all thanks to John Mackey from the marina. When the decision was made to not go ahead with a township run skating oval, the ice was not thick enough to support the Zamboni. In addition, a township run operation has specific requirements for insurance and in these COVID times. So many thanks to John Mackey for helping us all get fun outdoor exercise, and we encourage everyone to be vigilant in wearing masks and keeping distance, and above all, have fun. With no other announcements from staff, I'll call on our CAO, Ken Nix.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're excited to be able to introduce Laura Barta as the new Director of Finance for the township. She started this last week, just as the budget is finalizing. So she's in a unique position where she will not be participating with the budget discussions and presentation itself, but she may be able to add some wisdom if required. Laura comes from Brock Township. She has great experience, and we look forward to working with her. On that note, I have to thank Terry Barton, who has jumped in with both feet and done a fantastic job doing dual duties as both the Director of Finance and her Manager of Finance role. I wanted to thank Terry on behalf of everyone for the efforts that she's done, and she's been a great participant with myself and with senior management since that time. So thank you.
Thank you. Is Ms. Barton, Director Barton, online yet?
Sorry, it's Barta?
Barta, is she online yet?
Yes, I am.
Ah, very good. Would you like to say something? And welcome. We're a very warm welcome to you, Laura. Please,
thank you, Mayor Drew.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you to Council. I'm thrilled to be here in Scugog and looking forward to working with all of you. All staff have been wonderful, making me feel so welcome the first week. I have a lot to learn about the township and its residents, but I also have a lot to offer. I trust that my skills and contacts, especially with the Municipal Finance Officers Association, will be of benefit to the organization for a long time to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barta, and a very warm welcome from all of us here. I hope you'll be very happy to join our township family and our wonderful township community. I'd like to now call on Chief Burney. You have some announcements.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Drew. I have two announcements, and I'd like to echo your welcome of Laura to our team. First, I'd like to speak to our smoke and CO alarm program. As part of our smoke and CO alarm program, every time a firefighter enters a dwelling, they check for working smoke alarms and applicable carbon monoxide alarms. One common denominator with dwelling fires that end tragically is the lack of working smoke alarms. And given the tragic events across the province recently, along with the lack of working alarms found locally, and a recent close call involving CO, staff have developed two innovative ways to enhance our smoke and CO alarm program. And I'd like to give you a real brief description of the two of them. The first one is the distribution of door hangers. It's a program that we use post-fire, but we want to use this now when we come across a dwelling without working smoke or CO alarms. And the program is reactive. It's initiated again after we enter a dwelling and determine the lack of working alarms. Our mission will be to provide the residents in the neighborhood with information about working smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. And we hope, given the times that we're experiencing right now, that this is going to work for us in enhancing our fire protection across the community in the dwellings. Secondly, this program, our firefighters are going to be engaged virtually. This program is going to be proactive and initiated again by our firefighting team virtually. Firefighters have been challenged to reach out to their families, friends, and neighbors virtually to discuss fire safety and complete the Scugog Fire Alarmed at Home Challenge. And Mayor Drew and members of council, don't be naive. You will be getting a call. It may be from me or one of my team, but I hope you take the call and you grow with it and help us deliver the smoke alarm challenge across our community and enhance the fire safety. Secondly, I'd like to speak about COVID-19. If you've been following the tracker, the Durham tracker, our case status numbers in the township of Scugog are extremely promising. After several days of zeros, we have seen a couple hiccups over the last 7 days, more specifically Friday and Saturday. Our total active case count is 4. 3 cases are new and with in-home isolation. 1 existing case is currently in hospital in ICU. But still, these numbers are promising, and I encourage our community to continue with their vigilance. And with that, I'd like to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to the staff of Lake Ridge Health Port Perry Place, and West Shore Village Retirement Home. The staff of these institutions have been instrumental in containing the outbreaks at these locations, and again, bringing some safety and comfort to the residents. Additionally, discussions within the ECG have been regarding Phase 3 vaccination distribution implementation plan. The township has the opportunity to play a key role as the population is vaccinated during Phase 3. And I look forward to sharing with you more information as it becomes available on this topic. Lastly, as we continue to slow the spread of COVID-19, we must be mindful of the variants and their transmission risk. I can't stress enough how important it is for us to adhere to all public health measures, continue to wear our masks, face coverings, keep your distance 2 meters or 6 feet, wash and sanitize your hands often, and hopefully, as MPP Lindsay Park has indicated, we can soon move from the provincial state of emergency into one of the 5 zones of the public health measures. And that, Mayor Drew, is the end of my announcements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions on those announcements? Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to the Chief. I'm just reading, just finished reading the Globe and Mail update on it as well. And it does say that the stay-at-home order will be lifted for some of the other parts of the province on February 16th, while there are 3 to the east that have been lifted as of today, and then Toronto, York, and Peel, it says will be lifted on the 22nd of February. Did Lindsay Park give you any indication or any reason for us to not believe that Durham would be in the lifting of the stay-at-home order next week?
Well, I can answer that because I got the call from Lindsay. From MPP Park. It will be lifted on the 16th, except for Toronto and Peel. And we will go back to the color.
Right, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor McDougall, is your hand up from before still, or do you have a question?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you very much. No question.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on. Any other questions from or announcements from staff? Seeing none. Okay, we'll now move on to item number 9.1, presentations and delegations. And this will be on the draft operating budget. And I would like to welcome Terry Barton, our Manager of Finance, to give a presentation on the budget. Terry?
Madam Mayor, this is Ken. I was wondering if I could
Yes.
impose
Ken,
and
yes.
introduce.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Sorry, I missed that. Yes, please do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. You've heard me say that budgets are not just about money, but budgets reflect the ability for a municipality to deliver service. The money raised through taxation is a key revenue source for municipalities in order to fund the service provision, take care of our assets, and address community priorities. It is important to make sure that we remain sustainable both now and in the future. Excuse me. The draft 2021 operating budget that sits in front of you meets Council's request to strive for a target of 5% increase on the budget. And when we discuss this budget, I feel it's important to stress that 80% of this increase is because of our focus on continuing the investment and additional funding into our assets to make sure that we take care of them to the best extent possible. And only about 20% of the increase, or about 1% of the 5% budgetary increase, is available to address the continued delivery of services and programs and move forward on community priorities identified in the strategic plan. When we initially brought our target report to Council, we identified a need for a 7% increase based on the information available to date, although staff did recommend a target stretch target of 6%. And as you all know, Council did approve the 6% target, but asked us to try and achieve 5%, which we were able to do. But again, the majority is for increasing the investment into our assets. Now, as staff continued to look at the budget after getting direction from Council, we refined the budget numbers with better estimates, understanding the impact of the economy, the development activity in the pipeline, and other information available. And it became obvious that 7% or more was realistic, despite the efforts of staff to find efficiencies and other budget offsets. And even though this is essentially a status quo budget, the amount of financial pressures that we were experiencing, primarily from external sources, were significant, and we couldn't offset them. So as a result, we had to utilize the additional revenues from assessment growth to meet our target. It's not something I would recommend on a continuing basis, since we need to utilize this additional tax revenue from growth to offset some of the costs of growth in the future. But once in a while, it is required. And we did need to do it in order to be able to continue service delivery in the format we were expected of, or that's expected of us. And you know, almost everyone's aware that these are not normal times. COVID has challenged us for most of 2020, is expected to impact us for much of 2021. And at some point, we hope and pray that things will begin to normalize. Throughout the COVID environment, the pandemic, the demand for services has continued, and the requirement to invest in our assets has continued. And staff and Council have done everything possible to ensure that services are delivered in one form or another in a safe environment that protects both the residents and staff of the township. As we normalize, we expect the demand for our services to continue to increase, and our budget is structured to be able to continue service delivery once things return to normal or close to normal. As someone who has yet to experience a normal week in this municipality, that being one prior to, I guess it was March of 2020, I have been impressed by what council staff have been able to deliver considering the pandemic environment and the capacity available. When we look to the future and understand the changing demographics along with growth and other pressures expected within our community, we cannot expect to maintain existing levels of services and staff if we want to address these needs. As the community continues to change, either from new residents or from younger families that come into our growing community, the expectations for service delivery will increase. It's just natural. And we'll need to invest in staff and other resources to fully modernize and maintain our technology and to deliver services in the format that is expected from these new residents. In addition, we will need to maintain our focus on increasing investment in our capital program. This is important because we have to ensure that we provide safe and reliable infrastructure for the community to use or for us to be able to deliver services. The strategic plan identifies a large number of deliverables, and many have significant price tags attached. Going forward, we'll need to prioritize even further and develop a plan to satisfy the expectations of the community and ensure that money is available to deliver on the priorities when expected. Municipalities, especially lower tier municipalities, provide many of the day-to-day services utilized and valued by residents. Services that help define our community, the place we want to live in. And Scugog manages close to $500 million of public infrastructure in addition to the service delivery that we provide in terms of programs and protection and other services. And we do this with only 30% of the property tax bill. And when you consider the cost of the taxes paid by a typical household each year, we're a very small portion of the overall taxes paid by the average family. Council and staff put significant focus on minimizing costs and tax impacts on residents each year. And although council and staff were successful this year, there's minimal flexibility in the budgets to manage unexpected demand or changing priorities. The reality is that things will get more complicated and pressures on taxes will continue each year. It's important to realize that it will be difficult, if not impossible, to keep financial support for operations and service delivery at artificially low levels while maintaining or increasing service levels without a drastic change. Despite what we face in the future, the budget in front of you addresses planned increases in the capital program. It maintains service levels and allows the municipality to be in a position to continue providing services valued by our residents when things do begin to return to normal. And that is quite a feat. Terry will take you through a presentation of the budget. Before she does, I want to once again thank Terry for her effort doing both jobs, the director and the manager job. She has been wonderful and she's jumped in and ran the budget process at the same time she was learning it. And I also have to thank the support from other senior management and their staff who contributed to this budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Mr. CAO, and I'll call on Terry Barton to start with her presentation. Terry, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sandra, are you able to bring up the presentation? Perfect, thank you. Sorry, I think we're just having a little technical difficulties. I have pre-recorded this, so she's just trying to get it to play. Sandra, why don't I just try to share my screen instead? How about that?
Yes, please.
Bear with me 1 second. I need to bring up the If you can stop sharing your screen, I will share mine. Oh, you have to give me access to do it. Can you just close that one down as well, Sandra, so I have the opportunity to share my screen? Apologize for this. We thought it would work.
I'm sorry, I have to stop sharing my screen. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Or give me the ability to share the screen. So I requested control. If you just
Perhaps we could just take a break to sort this out, Madam Mayor?
Sure, why don't we take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break?
Thank you.
Ms. Fleury, do we need to call roll call again?
It's probably a good idea, at least for members of council.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Mayor Drew is present. Councillor Watton, are you still present?
I am.
Councillor McDougall?
I am.
Councillor Guido?
I am.
Councillor Ross?
Present, thanks.
Councillor Kiesbrink?
Present.
And Councillor Brown.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Barton, are we ready to go ahead? And sorry, everyone, for the little technical glitch, but we're trying our best. Please go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I hope this worked this time. Hello, my name is Terry Barton, and I'm the Manager of Finance here at the Township of Scugog. I want to thank you for this opportunity to present the 2021 draft operating budget, and also want to thank all the contributors that helped me put this presentation together, as well as all the staff that worked so hard to deliver this budget that has met the target set out by Council. The budget process is a very long process and starts way back in June with the setting of the timetable that lists all the important dates and deadlines that need to be met so that the township can have a budget that is approved early on in the year. As you can see, we are nearing the end of the budget process for 2021. Here is a list of just some of the local services the township provides to contribute to the residents' enjoyment of living in Scugog. Some are obvious, but some the community may not be aware of or how big a job it is to provide that service. Scugog covers a very large area, so there are many roads to maintain, 826 kilometers to be exact. We also have 19 parks and 15 playgrounds to keep clean and safe. The township also has some great facilities and services to take advantage of, like the library, arenas, and the museum. Services are not just provided by programs, but also through the infrastructure that people use on a daily basis. Property taxes are always on the top of the minds for residents, so this is one of the only few taxes you actually see a bill for. Municipal taxes collected are approximately only 9 to 11% of the total taxes paid for a household. As you can see, most taxes paid go to the federal and provincial governments. Also, of that 9 to 11% of municipal taxes collected, Scugog only gets to keep about 3% of it. We believe we are providing good value for this investment from our taxpayers, considering the services we provide and the almost $500 million of infrastructure we manage. The property tax bill is made up of 3 parts: the regional share, which is about 56%, the educational share, which is 14%, and the township share, which is about 30%. Our 2021 draft operating budget has an increase of 4.98%, with the majority of this increase being allocated to investing in our assets to help repair and maintain them. There were many cost influences affecting the 2021 budget, and the township had external factors that were outside of our control. Some of the ones we had to deal with were an increase in both staff benefits and WSIB costs. There also was a 65% drop in investment income rate. Inflation costs increased many of the material prices that are used to maintain and repair our roads. COVID-19 is a topic that everyone is tired of discussing, but it has had an impact on all municipalities. Even with its uncertainty, the township continued to budget as if it was going to be a normal year and did not adjust any of the expenses or revenues. Assessment growth is the sum of all changes that happen to the township's assessment base during the year, including new construction, major renovations, demolitions, and property value appeals. It is usually used in the budget process to help pay for growth and is moved to a reserve. This year, we had to use the full estimated amount of $224,000 to help reduce the increase to the taxpayers. This year, we did increase some user fees to catch up the township's fees to other similar municipalities. Analyzing fees and charges on a yearly basis will be an ongoing activity and is one way to increase revenue used to offset expenses. As mentioned many times before in other reports and presentations, the township's assets and infrastructures are very important and need to be maintained to keep the community safe. Council already has recognized this and approved special levies in the operating budgets that started back in 2014. These levies need to continue so that we can improve our assets and get to a place where we're no longer in a deficit. This slide contains data that shows the condition of all our assets, including vehicles, equipment, facilities, buildings, and of course, roads. This information comes from the 2016 asset plan. As you can see, we still have many assets in poor or very poor condition. This graph displays the increases of the special levies and the funds that are available to be transferred into our roads and other infrastructure reserve. The township is now able to complete larger road projects sooner and spend on critical maintenance activities at the right time to maintain our roads. This year in 2021, the township will be investing almost $9.5 million into our roads. That is an increase of about $309,000 more than 2020. Cost savings and efficiencies get harder and harder to find each year. The staff continuously look for ways to reduce expenses or to find efficiencies. For the 2021 budget, the staff were able to find some, like the reduction in bank fees and charges, as well as some in the winter maintenance contracted services. The staff also look at revenues each year to see if there are ways to increase the amount. As mentioned before, we did increase some fees this year and will continue to look at them yearly. The total net budget for 2021 is $14,698,600. This is an increase over last year of $952,800. The largest increase portion is allocated to the public works, or roads specifically, as this is the area which needs the most attention. As you can see from this chart, most of the money collected to support the township comes from taxes. Other revenues include user fees, licenses, many types of permits, and investment income. Our grants include money from OMPF, or the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, OLG, the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation, and also from the Canada Summer Jobs Grant. Here is our property tax breakdown for the taxes we collect here in Scugog. As you can see, almost 86% of the taxes that are collected are from the residents. This slide indicates the estimated monthly increase to an average resident. As you can see, the CVA amount did not change from 2020 to 2021. Scugog's increase is only $5.71 per month, or 1.5% on the total tax bill. If we were to take the total monthly amount for Scugog of $120.45 and allocate it out to each department, you can see that the Recreation Department would get $9.08 per average taxpayer. The allocated funds help to keep the user fees down for individual participants and are much less than the price of a single admission to many private sector events or activities, for example, going to a movie. Even with COVID-19, the township was still able to accomplish many things in 2020. Here are some of the highlights. The library introduced new self-checkout kiosks and phone apps to allow patrons to check out their own materials more safely. We increased our communication outreach through social media and mayor update videos. We proactively managed expenditures to ensure no deficit as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. We reviewed and issued approximately 500 building permits, which is a 66% increase over a typical year. 2021 looks like it will be another busy year for Scugog. Here are some of the things staff want to get done or complete by the end of the year. We want to look to expand our bylaw enforcement to meet the needs of communities for nights and weekends. We want to look at converting our tendering process to online bids, as well as a new service delivery method for winter maintenance of parking lots. As with most municipalities, there are always future challenges. Here are some that we know about and will have to deal with in the future. Thank you for listening, and this presentation will be available on our township website at www.scugog.ca.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Terry. That's an excellent presentation, very much appreciated, and I'm glad to see it's going to be on the website. There's some very valuable information on that. I'm going to, with Council's indulgence, pull forward the consent agenda item 10.1 so that we can speak to the report and the presentation. Do we need a motion now, Ms. Fleury, to accept the presentation for information? Or can we wait till the report?
We can wait. There's no procedural requirement to accept the presentation.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask Council, if you have questions, general questions on the presentation, do them now. And but I think, you know, in the interest of time, and there could be overlaps, and I don't want to stop you and say, no, that's not on the report. So if you have questions of a general nature, please ask them now. And if it happens to be on the report, that's fine too. So questions? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I went through the operating budget and I came up with 27 questions. I'm obviously not going to ask 27 questions here, but I do have a few questions that I think I would like to ask for public record. I forwarded the questions to whomever would answer them. I've got all answers to all of them, and I want to thank everybody who contributed to the answers for the 27 questions that I had. So I'll just ask a few here. On the first page of the binder, PILs and supplementary, can I get somebody to explain to me the 21.41%?
Terry, can you go ahead?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. Sure, I can answer that. Or does the CIO want to answer that one instead? I could just read out the answer that he provided.
Mr. CAO, did you want to answer that?
That's fine. I'd be glad to. I don't have the answer I provided in front of me, but basically PILs, every other levels of government are not required to pay property taxes, the feds in the province. PILs are payments in lieu. So they are in effect, they are the property taxes that the government does pay to municipalities. And we as a municipality get to keep our PILs for the township, but we also, through legislation, get to keep a portion of the payments that are paid for education purposes. And when we looked at the amounts that we were getting, both for our own purposes and retaining for education purposes, we adjusted the budget appropriately to reflect that number.
Okay, thank you. Your next question?
Yes, thank you. Transfers to reserves, that's on the same first page of the binder. Can you tell me where the reserves for the roads is at monetarily? Where are we at financially with that?
Ms. Barton?
Sure, that's one I copied all the questions, but I obviously forgot to copy the ones that I gave you the answer for. So do you want to know the actual balance at before this budget or after this budget?
Well, I mean, I've got it here and I'll just get you to confirm it. It's
Sure.
$1.4 million, right? $1,439,343.
Right, that's after all the money that goes in from this budget, as well as the planned capital projects that we have planned to finish from 2020 and also the ones for 2021. So we do like to keep a balance left in the reserve so we don't deplete it fully at that time.
Okay. If I may continue and through you, Madam Mayor,
Please
roads
go
and
ahead.
related, thank you. Roads and related expenditure increases, and again, this is on the first page. Can you please explain the fee for the new Durham radio system to me?
Ms.
What's
Barton?
that all about?
Sure, I will pass that one off to Director Coleman. Is she on here? I'm not quite sure. I can't see everyone that's
Yes,
on
she's
here.
here.
Perfect.
Please go ahead, Mr. Coleman.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. We upgraded our radio system in 2020. We formerly used radio towers before that, and they were very spotty of where we could get reception throughout the township. When we received money for efficiency from the province in 2019, I believe it was, the radios were identified as an area we need to improve efficiencies. So we are now using the same system that the region of Durham uses and the emergency services use. So if there were an emergency, we would have better communication, and also the quality is much, much better now. We can now get radio service throughout the township. So this new fee is what we're paying the region for this new system, and there is some savings for not paying the tower fees that we were paying before.
Great, thank you very much. Through you, Madam Mayor, on the second page of the binder, computer software, hardware, what is bang the table?
Ms. Bowers?
You may be muted, Ms. Bauer. You are. You're muted.
Okay, in the absence of her response, I can answer that question, Madam Mayor.
Please
Bang
go
the
ahead.
Table is our community engagement software, and we use it to get feedback from the community. And we've, for example, we used it as part of the budget input that was done earlier this year.
Okay, on the third page, major operating expenditure increases / decreases. Can you explain the increase in election expense?
Yes, every year, or every 4 years, obviously, the municipality runs an election. And in order to smooth the cost of the election, municipalities typically each year contribute roughly a quarter to the reserve funds so that they can pay it out once every 4 years without a significant bump in the taxes in the fourth year. Prior to the previous director of corporate services leaving, he reviewed the costs based on current estimates and current information and determined that we needed to increase the contributions over the next couple of years in order to be able to pay for the election.
Okay. And can someone tell me what is the backflow preventer for community halls as mandated by the region? What is that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, I can answer that question.
Thank you.
Backflow preventers are devices that are installed at where the water connection comes into a building, and it allows water only to flow one direction. So it flows from the water main into the building. It does not allow water to flow back into the water main system, which could result in contamination of the water. And the region is making sure that all of our municipal buildings have this, and this cost includes installing backflow preventers in 15 of our buildings throughout the township.
Director Coleman, how many do we need? And would that backflow prevent any contamination of a well in the instance of community halls that are on wells?
Through you, Madam Mayor, or to you, Madam Mayor. I believe that we need 15 of them, and yes, it would provide contamination back into the well as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Brown, I thought just while we were on that, because I know Councillor Watton had that question, so please go ahead,
No, that's fine. And again, thank you for your indulgence. I just have a few more. Tab 3, corporate services. It's my page 11 because I numbered the pages even though they didn't come to me numbered. But anyway, it's tab 3. Can you speak to Christmas tree lighting and how that works now? And also, I understand that this may affect the BIA, and I'd like somebody to address that as well if they've been spoken to about this.
Director Coleman?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. We're currently paying $7,500 a year through the BIA, and they're using it to hire a contractor to do the lighting services for Christmas throughout the downtown. And the $7,500 is going towards lighting Palmer Park, which is our property. We were looking at the cost and we're looking for ways to save money, and we feel that we could do it with our own staff, especially now that we have an extra body in our parks department. So we are looking at doing it for $2,500 just in materials and using our own labor resources, and then we would save $5,000. Yes, I have been in contact with the BIA about this, and they didn't see any issues with us taking over lighting the park.
Great, thank you. On tab 5, fire and emergency services, could you explain the increase in alerting costs from the city of Oshawa? I'm not sure I understand what that is. Chief?
Hi, thank you for the question, Councillor. And through you, Mayor Drew, to the Councillor. Alerting costs are the costs that we are charged by the City of Oshawa Fire Services to answer our 911 calls, and then in turn, interpret the calls and alert our staff accordingly, our firefighting staff accordingly, through pagers and what have you. Unfortunately, the cost increase this year is as a result of a corrective interpretation of the contract that we've had for almost 10 years now. And with the corrective interpretation becomes the true value of the service being provided according to the contract.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Tab 8, I'm nearing the end of mine. And again, I thank the other councillors for bearing with me on this too. The Blackstock Arena, are we budgeting for the arena with the presumption that it's going to reopen?
Director Coleman or Ms. Cornish?
I can start the response. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. As Ms. Barton said at the start, the whole budget this year as if it is a normal year, so that when we do return to normal, there will be sufficient funding for that. So that includes the Blackstock Arena. We're budgeting as if it was open now and as if it's open in the fall. We're actually going to have cost savings for not opening it at this from January till March this year, but those cost savings will be used against revenues lost in other areas. So yes, we are budgeting for a normal year.
Okay, and just one more from me through you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Community hall and facilities, why the increase on community hall and facilities of 54.39%?
Ms. Cornish?
Oh.
Go ahead.
The increase is primarily $19,400 for the installation of the backflow preventers.
Oh, okay, great. And thank you. That's enough from me. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown, for asking the rest of your 34 questions ahead of time. And it's very much appreciated by staff. And certainly, I'm glad you didn't have to ask 34 questions here. Councillor Kiesebrink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Brown, for asking many of the questions that that we all have on council as well. I just was wondering, Fire Chief Bernie, just for further clarification, is part of the increase because with the fire alerting system, is it because of growth numbers in the population overall? Is that part of the issue?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor, and through you, Mayor Drew, to the Councillor. The fee structure is based on population, and presently The population is sitting at a $2.50 per resident charge, and that is for a population of between 20 and 25,000 people. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. So with respect to Ontario One Call, could someone perhaps provide some further information on what the costs are associated with that?
Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, the township is legislated to provide service locates for our services, and they're coordinated through Ontario One Call. The services that we provide locates for are our storm sewer system and our street lighting system, mostly for the underground wiring for the street light system. And we have to pay a fee to Ontario One Call for each call, and we also have to pay a fee for our contractor to go out and mark where the services are. There's a significant increase in 2020 in these costs, primarily due to all the development that is happening within the township. Every time someone is building something new, there's a number of calls for service locates. So that cost has increased substantially for 2021.
Thank you so much. Further through you, Madam Mayor, with respect to increases in benefits, is it just that we are ascribing more benefits to staff, or could someone please clarify why the expenditure for further benefits at this time?
Terry, can you answer that?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The benefits, we did not increase the benefits for our staff, except we did have a slight increase when the negotiations for the fire staff were allocated out. So there is a slight increase on their side of the benefits, which is included into this package as well. But we did have benefits, just I guess with everyone being home or using them a little bit more, or it is projected to have a certain percentage. I think it was an overall percentage of 11.5 increase just on the existing benefits that we do have. But as well, all the other benefits went up as well. We had an increase in WSIB, which adds to the cost, as well as CPP went up, and so did EI and EHT. So it was a whole bunch of increases to the benefits that we just don't have the control over we had to budget for those amounts.
Oh, I see. Thank you very much for that clarification. I really appreciate all of the efficiency work that was done. Where we can save money, cutting grass, maintaining cemeteries, ditching. In Ward 4, I've had a lot of complaints about the street sweeping. I was told in the past that some of the contractors that were hired, the street sweeping trucks that they were using were faulty, and the residents were having to take away wheelbarrow loads of sand off the roads after the street sweepers had already been through. As a part of our efficiency with us taking over our own street sweeping, I understand the township doesn't own street sweeping trucks, so I'm wondering how we're going to achieve that.
Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, the township is not taking over the street sweeping. We are going to continue to hire contractors to do that. And you're right, we did have some issue with some contractors that we used 2 and 3 years ago, but last year it went much more smoothly than the past. We got a system working with the contractor. We used our water trucks to assist, and we also use our sidewalk sweeper to help loosen things ahead of the truck, which helped make the equipment more efficient in sweeping the roads. So the system that went last year worked quite well, and we'll continue with that going forward.
Okay, excellent. Further, if I could, Madam Mayor, with respect to the King Street reclamite, I hope reclamite, I don't know if I'm saying it properly, the pilot project, this is an additional 25,000. I'm just wondering if someone could provide clarity on what that particular project is.
Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, we continually look to ways to help preserve our roads. The basics of asset management are that if you make the right investment at the right time, you can significantly extend a road at a much lower cost than to do nothing over time, let it fail, and then you have to do a full reconstruction. So in our research and in talking to other municipalities, we've learned of this reclamite treatment, which is a surfacing treatment that goes into the road and re-energizes the asphalt material in that road. In talking to the contractor that does it, a great candidate for this road based on the age of the road and the condition of the road is King Street. So we've increased our budget line for pavement preservation to be able to do this. And also, we're also doing some single surface treatment on some other roads as well this year. Over time, we want to continue to keep increasing our budget in pavement preservation, because in the long run, it'll mean better roads and a lower cost for the township.
Well,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, with respect to the software, I think it was back in 2018, council approved the purchase of some software that would facilitate the customer service, because I think right now residents really rely heavily on email. And I think what we were trying to do is provide a notification where if they put in a request, if a street light is out, or, they needed sweeping done or something, they could put a request in, and they would get a notification when the work was going to be done. If, for example, if the culvert's being replaced in front of their residents, many residents would like to know and be there when that happens, especially if they know, certain nuances or details about their property. But so far, there hasn't seemed to be any mention of that software, even though it was approved. I think the WorkTech solution software that we're using is an asset management software for our roads, but I don't think that provides the customer service portal that had been presented to us that we approved. Is there anyone who can provide a status on the implementation of this software?
Director Coleman, can you answer that? Or, okay, maybe CAO Nix?
I don't have thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a specific date or plan. I know it was one of the priorities that was being dealt with in corporate services, and was put, it took less of a priority during the pandemic. It was just starting to be talked about again near the end of the year. I can get back to you on that, but my understanding is that we need to do some coordination still in terms of what software would work the best, considering the requests or the requirements of all the departments and the public. So I will see what I can do in terms of getting back to council on the timing of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We would really appreciate that. Would that, Mr. CAO, would that come through the efforts of the new clerk yet to be hired, or would that fall under Director Coleman, or maybe that's part of what has to be discussed as well, depending on the productivity of this, and how far-reaching this software is, I guess.
If I may, Madam Mayor, I believe this will be an all-hands-on-deck software if it's done well or done properly, because it will affect every area within this organization. So I think there's a couple issues. Yes, it will be part of the priority of the corporate services director, but also the communications manager and technology itself, who will probably quarterback or project manage the project corporately. One of our challenges with technology is that our existing capacity in order to implement new and maintain new applications. So I will talk with senior management. I'll find out what the details are and get back to you with what we know. I can say it probably won't be in the next quarter or 6 months, but I will find out if I can get a better time frame for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Madam Mayor, I have 2 further questions if I could.
Yep, go ahead.
One further one would be and I'm not sure again who this question would be to, but in the report there is a mention that there are some staff training services that the region is no longer going to be providing. I know Fire Chief Bernie had intimated in one of our previous meetings that there were fire training support that was not going to be provided, but I'm wondering if that line item in our budget is relative to that or some other type of staff training. So my question is twofold, just clarification on that, but then also what does that mean going forward for the township?
Mr. CAO, can you answer that?
I'm sorry, I can't. Perhaps HR. Robin, would you be able to comment on that? And if not, we'll get back to council.
Hi, Madam Mayor. It's actually Terry. I believe that has to do with the parks training, that we had to add some budget back into the parks training because the region was providing some of the training that our parks staff was doing, and then now they're not providing that anymore, if that is correct. I think, Director Coleman.
Director Coleman, do you have a
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Yes, there was some training in parks area that the region had been providing in the past, equipment training each year at no cost to us, and they no longer are providing that service, so we have to pay a company to do it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kiesbrink, another question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is for our library for Amy. I'm just wondering, with the library, how it's been going with the. There's a bit of a shortfall in our library revenues, which is to be expected in COVID, and I think that the library and everyone has done so well in trying to support the community in spite of the pandemic. But I'm wondering how the Fine Free initiative has been doing, and whether the reduction of revenues is going to be balanced by money that's coming in from the province, because I know that they're providing some money. I was just wondering if maybe Amy could comment on that for us. Thank you.
Ms. Coughlin?
Hi, yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The shortfall in the 2021 operating budget was all part of the plan for the Library Fine Free Initiative. So all of that revenue shortage is due to the removal of any sort of fines revenue. And the library board said that we could only proceed with the Fine Free Initiative if there were expenditures balanced on the other side, so that it didn't have a major impact on the library budget going forward. So you do see that there is less revenue as compared to the 2020 library operating budget, but all of that is balanced out with expenditures so that the overall increase to the library budget is just a sort of cost of living, maintaining current services increase. It's not, there's no sort of money added to make up for that loss because we found that money elsewhere. There's no sort of COVID related shortage that is reflected in that budget because that was not part of our process. There is, emergency library reserve funding that and a bit of a surplus from the 2020 budget that if it's required this year due to any shortfalls in revenue, additional shortfalls caused by COVID, that we will be able to make up any shortfall. But currently what you're seeing there is just the reflection of the Fine Free initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for just an incredible job and seeing the library usage increase so much this year. I think the community really appreciate the mental health support that you and your team provide. So thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Kiesbrink. Councillor McDougall, you appear to be offline. Are you still with us? Your microphone is not showing at all.
Madam Mayor, I am here actually. Thank you.
Okay, did you have a question? Because no?
Well, I have the other 34 questions that Councillor Brown didn't ask.
I hope some of them have been asked. Do you want to go ahead with those?
Well, the first 34 were, but the next 34 weren't. But thank you, Madam Mayor, for the chance to ask a couple questions. A question for Ms. Barton, I believe. When we look at the 2020 budget and the budget versus the actuals for the year, it appears that we have about a $2 million savings in terms of how much we haven't spent. Obviously, a lot of that is due to COVID, and I assume there's other things still yet to come into our total year-end numbers. What will happen with the money that wasn't spent in the operating budget? How does that go back into reserves?
Ms. Barton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to you, through you to the councillor. Yeah, we're anticipating having a surplus at the end of this year, at the end of 2020. I can't tell you exactly what that's going to be until we finish entering all of our invoices plus all our accruals that we still need to do. What happens is the amount of the surplus gets put back into the different reserves. So depending how much the surplus is, we put 25% back into the facility and building reserve, 25% back into the vehicle and equipment reserve, 20% goes to roads, 5% goes to major facilities, and the rest of the 25% goes into our municipal projects reserve. So that all gets put back into the reserves.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I have a question about computer software and hardware. It's with regards to the eScribe meetings management software. I know the province has a program where they provide us for some COVID type funding, so special things that we have related to COVID. Will the province be compensating us for the eScribe management software as to, we wouldn't have purchased it, I don't believe, should we have not have had the pandemic? I'm not sure who to ask that to, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I can take a shot at that, Madam Mayor. It's Ken.
Yes, please.
I think in the first year, we probably would put the costs to COVID, but on a go-forward basis, since it is one of those costs that we will benefit from in the future, and independently of COVID, that we would work it into our operating budget and probably not receive any funding for it.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
Okay, so further, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the idea is that when the pandemic is over, we'll continue with the eScribe software, even should we not need to do virtual meetings anymore?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because the software also has workflow and publishing capabilities.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I have a question for the fire chief, if I might. It's on just with regards to when I look at the fire department's operating budget, I see payroll for about $800,000 for the full-time department, and then payroll for, it looks like almost like the full and the part-time department. The volunteer department has a payroll of about $619,000. Is that for the total cost for the payroll for the volunteer department?
Chief?
Hi, through you, Mayor Drew, to the councillor. Thank you for the question, councillor. Yes, for the volunteers, that's correct.
And sorry, Chief, how many volunteers do we maintain? Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, councillor, and through you, Madam Mayor. We have an approved level of 60 plus the ability to go 5 over to ensure that we have that 60 on a regular basis. So 65 total at any given time.
So that, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, that represents a significant value to the taxpayers of Scugog. It seems 60 volunteers on call for 600,000. Okay, thank you, and thank you to all the volunteers. One other further question through you, Chief, is just with regards to burn permits. Well, probably 2 questions actually. The $21,500, is that an increase due to the burn permits that we just saw last year in terms of the increased availability for burn permits?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, that's our anticipated continued growth with burn permits, and a direct result of council's decision to open up open air burning permits in Port Perry and Prince Albert, along with I believe our enforcement to ensure that everybody has open air burning permits. We've seen an increase of about 200 and just under 250 in the Port Perry Prince Albert area, but in total we've seen an increase of almost 700 permits. So I would suggest that rural Scugog has been more compliant now because of our enforcement. So,
well, thank you very much. Yeah, well, thank you very much, Chief. Has that caused any additional concerns or problems for the fire department?
Through you, Mayor Drew. Not really. I mean, you know, we're reactive when we get a burning complaint, and you know, unfortunately, sometimes burning complaints are as a result of, you know, a motorist driving by unrealizing that or not realizing that you know, perhaps a resident has an authorized burning permit and are burning legally. So I would suggest not.
Sorry, just to follow up on that through you, Madam Mayor. So if there was a burning complaint, then how would the respondents know if they should respond or not to that address?
Through you, Mayor Drew. Most burning complaints are reported through 911, and in turn 911 alerts the firefighters of from either station for the burning complaint, and then respond accordingly.
Okay, thank you. That's all for the chief. Question on, I believe it's community services with regards to streetlights. I see that we had a significant budget savings last year in terms of how much it cost for us for lighting and materials. So I guess the two questions are we expected to see that continued savings again this year? And the other question I have is with regards to, I've noted sometimes our LED streetlights are out. Is that a problem with the product itself, or is like, are they temperamental, or why are they sometimes out? And what's the best way, again, to follow up on Councillor Kiesering's question in terms of, you know, is there a reporting way for a member of the public to report that in without having to call in and go through the rigmarole of trying to log it with a human being at the offices? Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, we expect to continue having significant savings in our streetlight system since we installed the LED streetlights. There is a significant energy savings and hopefully over time maintenance cost savings as well. Council has given us the direction to continue to budget for those, but 75% of those savings are then put back into the hydro reserve until it is replenished. That's the reserve where the streetlights LED replacement program was funded from. We did do something this year to help to lower the tax base. We took that to 25% of the savings that we anticipate, and we took that off of the budget, so that was $30,000. So now the entire savings that we get through streetlights will go into the hydro reserve until it's replenished. That was one question. You asked how people can report outages. They can email us through works@scugog.ca and any streetlight outages, or call our general phone number. Either one of those will work right now. And when we do get the customer service software in place, that will be a method that can use as well. I feel like I forgot part of your question. Was there one more part to it?
No, that's okay. I think you covered most of that. I do have a follow-up question, if I might, Madam Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Further down in community services, we have the community halls listed in terms of their budgeting, and annually we typically give a number of about $3,500 to each of the community halls. My question is with regards to Utica Hall. I see that Utica Hall is still in the budget for 2021, but unfortunately, the Utica Hall Board decided to, well, not unfortunately, it was just a fact of circumstances that the hall was not being utilized, and the Hall Board was, I want to say, fatigued and trying to, you know, drum up business to maintain that hall. But that number's still carried into the 2021 budget. Why is that, through you, Madam Mayor?
That would be Ms. Cornish.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor McDougall. We've kept that in the line. It's changed from a grant to a maintenance account number. So right now, since it's still our facility to maintain, township's responsibility, we do have some propane costs to heat the building at a minimal temperature, and that's for any maintenance issues that come up. Say with they have a sump pump reoccurring problem there too. So we just have some money allocated in the budget if any of those items come up.
Okay, Councillor McDougall?
Well, yes, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, just to follow up on that. But we have it listed as a community hall, but it's no longer being listed as a community hall. We don't list other community facilities such as Town Hall 1876 in this section of the budget. So I'm just questioning as to, is this the best location to leave that listed? But perhaps that will be something we can address next year. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor, to, oh, sorry, go ahead, CAO, next.
If I may, yes, we will look at where that is allocated next year. If it still is, it still remains a property of the municipality.
Okay, thank you. And one last question to you, Madam Mayor, if I might. My question is with regards to the bylaw department under tab 9. I can see under the 2020 actual amounts, the approved versus the actuals. We had approved a budget for the bylaw department for 171,000, but as of, I guess, the date of this printing, we had a payroll for 2020 of $164,000. It's my understanding that we are hiring or have hired or are in the process of hiring an additional part-time bylaw officer, and part of that is because of overtime expenses. How come the overtime expenses are not reflected in the report that's been presented in front of me?
Director Heritage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to the councillor. Perhaps Terry would be able to answer that question in terms of why it's not presented in the report in terms of the overtime.
Okay, Ms. Barton?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yeah, that was just a point in time, and maybe not everything has been put through that account right now, but if we budgeted for a certain amount of overtime and we did not use it, then that would be reflected. I would have to drill down to see exactly why that is a bit less than what was expected. But I can get back to you on that if you want.
Sorry, thank you. I just want to follow up. So my understanding is we're hiring an additional part-time bylaw officer because of the cost of the overtime that's encumbered by the current 2 bylaw officers. Is that correct? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. CAO or Director Heritage.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes, that's correct. What we're doing right now is for any overtime that has to be put in place, the 2 bylaw officers that are permanent employees with us right now, it's costing the municipality a lot more money to have them work overtime, especially on Saturdays at time and a half and double time on Sundays. So we're pursuing a part-time bylaw officer where we're able to pay them straight time, and they'll be working in the evenings during the week as well as on Saturdays and Sundays at straight time.
And just to follow up through you, Madam Mayor, the part-time bylaw officer, will they be responding? I understand we are a complaints-based bylaw department, I believe, and I believe the only thing that we will respond to that's not complaints-based is parking bylaws, or parking infractions, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the council, we are very proactive in terms of parking infractions. And in terms of other infractions, we work on the basis of a complaint basis.
So through you, Madam Mayor, so am I to understand that the part-time bylaw officer will be working for the municipality weekends, evenings, whatever, but they will require a registered complaint in order to respond to any other needs other than parking infractions, is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes. For instance, noise complaints and that type of thing, we would need a written complaint to that effect. Yes.
So,
if I may, Madam Mayor,
Please,
I
yes.
believe that also during the COVID environment, the bylaw officer would be there to deal with any COVID-related infractions. I think one of the key points also is that a lot of the infractions or complaints do happen in off hours when the bylaw officer, the part-time bylaw officer, hopefully would be available to respond at a cost that's much lower than the full-timers.
And that would not be complaint driven necessarily, correct? I mean, when they're doing their rounds, if they saw an infraction, a COVID infraction, they would deal with it. Didn't have to be by complaint, correct?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, I just to clarify that. So my understanding is that should there be a noise complaint in the evening or some other kind of complaint with regards to that other than parking or COVID, it will require a registered complaint with the bylaw department. And my expectation is that the bylaw department will be easy to get a hold of to make that registered complaint. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes, the bylaw department would be easy to get a hold of with the part-time bylaw officer working in the evenings and on the weekends. You also have to remember too, Madam Mayor and the councillor, that the part-time bylaw officer will be doing regular patrols. And with those patrols, if that bylaw officer sees something that's out of line, he or she can certainly pursue that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McDougall, further?
Yes, so just through you, Madam Mayor, so should that part-time bylaw officer see a pile of snow on a sidewalk or something like that, they would be able to respond to that?
Director Heritage?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes, they could respond to that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ross, you had your hand up earlier. There's been a lot of questions. Was your question answered?
Hi, Madam Mayor. I think I just have one point for clarification, if I may.
Yes, please go ahead.
Probably to the CAO. Just in regards to the report, in one breath, we're saying that Scugog will continue to be impacted by COVID-19 for much of 2021. And then in the next, said that the budget was prepared as if it was a normal year, which is anything but. I understand that the response given before was that we're doing this now so that when we're ready to shed the pandemic and the lockdown, that we're ready to start again. My concern is that residents are paying for services or events this year that may not take place. And this is arguably the year that they need the most help with taxes. Can you just maybe further explain the reasoning behind this, given that we don't know when we're going to start services or events and they may not even show up next year? So do we continue to look forward as it's next year? Just maybe if you could just further clarify.
Mr. CAO?
I would be glad to, because it is a common question. It's something that was debated earlier in the year across a lot of municipalities. In reality, the majority of our services are still maintained. And the demand to invest and the requirement to invest in our infrastructure is still there. And a lot of people are looking for us to provide services, an enhanced level of service, and we're doing the best we can with what we have. It's easy to say cut taxes this year because we had a savings in 2020, but we don't know if we're going to have a savings in 2021. We don't know if it's going to cost more in 2021. So rather than have a up and down tax levy, we are saying let's budget as if it's a consistent year, and that we have the reserve that has been identified, the COVID/contingency reserve, to deal with any shortfalls. We look at that as a prudent measure because when we're budgeting, we can't look at just 1 year. We have to look at the future. If we determine that we should cut taxes this year because we're not theoretically spending enough, then we would have to make up that cut plus the normal pressures that affect a municipality next year in order to be able to provide the same level of service in a year if things normalize. Conversely, if we determine that our costs, our loss in revenues and our costs are going to be higher this year, we would have to charge a larger increase on our tax rate than would be necessary on an ongoing basis. So it's easy to say cut taxes in 1 year, but you can't bring it up easy in the next year because it's looked at as a single year increase. We believe this is the best and most appropriate approach to maintaining our services and ensuring that we are being able to provide the services when we come out of COVID. If we do run into a surplus, then it'll be distributed according to the surplus distribution policy. If we run into a deficit, we will then fund it through the contingency reserves.
Mr. CAO, what is the, I'm not sure if you can answer this, or Terry, what are other municipalities doing? Are they budgeting as if it's going to be a normal year?
I can answer that in terms of the majority of municipalities, but I can't answer that in saying it applies to every municipality.
No, of course not.
The majority of municipalities I've talked to are budgeting as if it's a normal year or close to a normal year because they are taking into account some of the more sustainable costs that we're pretty convinced or that people are convinced will occur even after COVID. Okay, thank you. Councillor Ross, anything further?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Just to further on that, if, as we just heard, there potentially is a surplus in 2020, if we're looking again at a surplus in 2021, fast forward to 1 year from today, when we're having discussions again, if we're looking, you've mentioned that surpluses will go into the policy that's been written. At what point do we reevaluate what normal is and we either are using up those surpluses more or we're ratcheting down charges or tax levies?
That is a very good question, Councillor Ross. I wished I had the answer for that. I do think that given another year, we would probably have a better feel, but at this point, I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question. And that's actually because we don't have a good feel. That's why we've taken the approach, and most municipalities have taken that approach for 1 more year.
Okay.
When I say municipalities, lower tier municipalities.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Councillor Ross did touch on the one question that I had, and mine was more specific to the mayor and council, as specifically what we would normally budget for AMO conferences, knowing that last year that didn't happen. This year it's been moved to virtual again. I was just trying to understand better why we would continue to budget for a conference when we know right now that we won't be attending that conference. But Mr. CAO, you provided an answer for that, so thank you.
Yes, please go ahead, Mr. CAO.
I'm sorry, Councillor Guido, did I answer your question previously?
Yeah, you answered the question, though I'm sure many of our taxpayers won't necessarily appreciate the answer. You've at least given the answer to why we're continuing to budget like it is somewhat of a normal year. If I can move on to corporate services, and Councillor Brown had touched on the BIA lighting, but I'd like to understand a little bit further on this. So the BIA currently pays a company to not just install the lights, but they guarantee the lights. So if a light bulb burns out or strands don't work, they're there to replace them and fix them. And the following year when they come back, they ensure that those lights are working. They may not be the same ones, but they ensure that lights are in full function when they're installed in our park. Are we saying now that the township is going to now look after stringing the lights on our tall evergreen trees and using the same technology that they use to adhere on the archway, where it's small adhesive clips that are used to ensure that it's a more uniform, straight look. And we're confident that we have the machinery to reach heights and that we will have the staff ability to fix bulbs and maintain many strands of lights to ensure that they're working every year.
Mr. CAO, can you direct that? Or Councillor
Director
Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, we believe that we can do that. We may need some assistance from a contracted to help with the higher parts of the trees. I expect that we could probably leave them on like we do the tree in front of the municipal building, so that this is a one-time cost. And yes, we believe that we can maintain and install those lights at a lower cost.
Thank you, Director Coleman. Do we know from an estimate in that $2,500 that you had stated earlier that we think we can do it for? Is that including the cost of the contractor to bring his machinery to install the lights?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then we would also have to assume then that as years go on, we will have to recontract that contractor to fix any of the lights that may not be working.
Yes, that is true. And sometimes we have to get our contractor out there now, because sometimes the issue isn't the string of light, we have electrical issues as well. So we already do have some costs going into that currently.
Okay, thank you. And is the plan then to expand the amount of trees and lighting in the park?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, at this time we weren't planning to expand anything, but we can look at that once we start doing it and seeing what the costs are. We can look and see if that's a possibility.
So have we priced out what costs of lights are, and does the township receive any bulk discounts for the amount of strands we would need to purchase?
We have put out a rough cost estimate for it. That's where we came up with the 2,500. I don't think that that's enough to get a significant savings for bulk lighting.
Okay. Okay. And the only reason I ask is I know how much the lights cost, and $2,500 to do Palmer Park would be very ambitious, but I will leave that to your talented staff to figure out how they will accomplish that with that budget amount. My next question, Councillor McDougall did start asking some of the questions regarding bylaw. If I can further on understand two areas. We have an increase of $3,200 for clothing to clothe our new bylaw officer. Is this a one-time charge, or will this now be rolled into the base budget and every year we will have $3,200 for clothing?
Director Heritage?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the councillor. This would be generally a one-time charge in terms of uniform, boots, coat, and ballistic vest. The ballistic vest has to be changed every 5 years, but it's generally a one-time cost.
So then next budget, we wouldn't have a $3,200 line item for clothes, or I don't think it was a line item, but we wouldn't have a $3,200 in there that we have this year?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, no, it wouldn't be $3,200. There may be some minor additional costs in terms of clothing, but certainly not $3,200.
Perfect, thank you. And my last question to Ms. Barton regarding overtime payment. Typically, do we not pay overtime on an actual basis? Meaning, if I worked overtime this week, I would see it on my following pay schedule?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, you would see it on your, we do pay overtime, but the thing is, when it gets put into our accounting system, it all goes in at one cost. So to break out the cost between overtime and regular time, it's really hard. Our accounting system bulks it all together under one number.
Okay,
so it's hard to get that.
We would see that on our budget binder under the line item of payroll, and it wouldn't matter if it's overtime or regular time.
Right, it's all included together.
Right, so back to Councillor McDougall's question then, if the estimated accruals are showing that we're under budget, how are we under budget if we were over budget with payroll for overtime?
So I did actually run a report while you guys were speaking, and there's other costs in that payroll that are under budget. So yes, the full-time is under budget by a little bit, but we were not using we're just estimating the overtime. And so at the beginning of the year, we were not doing a lot of overtime, and the estimate is just for the full year, as well as our group insurance is under budget by a lot, because that is another cost that is estimated. And so when the estimate came through, we came under budget under that one as well. So it's not just the payroll difference is not just salary, it's a combination of all the other costs as well.
Thank you. I see a separate line item for insurance. So is there a secondary insurance that would fall under payroll?
So sorry, the insurance is our municipal insurance. It doesn't have anything to do with the insurance with payroll.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And I just opened my my old budget binder, and in 2019, we had approved 165,000 and we used 156,000 based on what was provided to us a few years ago. So based on what we as council have seen is that we are running under budget for the payroll line item versus over budget. And it just surprised me. I would have thought it would have reflected over budget if there's significant overtime being accrued by our bylaw officers. Perhaps, Ms. Barton, once we have the final numbers, then that could be provided to council for the final payroll number for bylaw?
Sure, I can definitely provide that to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Guido. Are there any other questions from staff? From council, sorry. Seeing none.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I can't get my hand up. I apologize. It's Councillor Keats-Brink.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Further to Councillor McDougall's question, or sorry, it was Councillor Guido. How can we take the conference line item off? Because I don't feel comfortable budgeting for that when that's likely not going to be happening. I know it's a small thing, but whatever we can do to tweak, I think we need to.
Madam Mayor, if I may
yes,
comment
please go
on that.
ahead.
If we look at taking off one-time costs that will not be incurred, we probably should relook at one-time costs that will be incurred to understand what those are on an ongoing basis. While it's true you're not going to go to AMO this year, at least, yeah, you're not going to AMO this year. That doesn't mean in the year after you're not going to go to AMO, or council will not be going to AMO. So if we took it off this year, we would have to add it on next year, and it'd be another pressure next year. So I guess what I'm saying is to make a decision of taking off one-time costs, it has an implication on the next year when you want to bring a budget forward, understanding that there's still inflationary components on most issues related to the budget. Plus, by just looking at savings on costs, we don't know what the additional costs will be as a result of COVID. So it's a challenging game to choose one versus another, and that's why we took the approach of maintaining a consistent year. Of course, council always has the decision, but I just wanted to reinforce that whatever you take off this year has to be added on next year, and if you take off the wrong things this year, you may not be able to get them back next year.
If I could, Madam Mayor.
Please.
I'm just wondering, I'm not suggesting that we remove it out as a line item, but just remove the budget for it for this year. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guido, do you have your hand up again? Sorry. Is that from before?
Apologies. No, I forgot. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. And Director Coleman, you had your hand up. Did you still have something you wanted to add?
Sure. For more clarification, I just like to add to Mr. Nix's comments that I've already looked at, or Sean and I have looked at costs of the cost impacts in recreation with having the arena closed for this time period, and we're losing over $100,000 in revenue after we take off our expenses that have lessened. So we don't know what the cost impacts ultimately are going to be from COVID. We don't know what this year is going to look like. So things like the council's conference, AMO conference, help to offset those costs. That's how we were able to manage things in 2020. The conference costs came off our extra expenditures. So if we start budgeting for what we're actually doing in 2021, we have to look at everything, not just expenses that are less. We have to look at extra costs as well, and that's very hard to predict at this point.
Okay, anything further, Councillor Kiesebrink? No, okay.
No, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. So the motion for this report is that this report, FIN 2021-003, the 2021 draft operating budget be received. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Brown and Councillor Watton. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, will you call the question, please, Madam Clerk?
Certainly. Sandra, I don't know if you can get the voting screen up or not. Sandra? Okay, I'll do a roll call then if you'd like, Madam Mayor.
That'd be fine.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown?
In favor.
Councillor Guido?
In favor.
Councillor McDougall?
In favor.
Councillor Kiesebrink?
In favor.
Councillor Ross?
In favor.
Councillor Watton?
In favor.
And Mayor Drew?
In favor.
Thank you. That carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Councillor Watton, your hand is up. Did you have something you wanted to say, add, question?
No, I was just moving the recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. We've had a pretty intense session for over an hour or so. So how about we have a 10-minute break, and we will be back at say 3:40. How's that? Do we need a motion, Madam Clerk, for a 10-minute break?
We should have one, yes.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor McDougall and Councillor Watton. All those in favor? And everybody's putting up their hand. Is that okay, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you at 3:40. to order, and I will ask Madam Clerk, please, to call the roll call.
Okay, Mayor Drew is present. Councillor Watton, are you present?
I am. Thank you.
Councillor McDougall?
I am present, yes.
Councillor Guido?
I'm present, thank you.
Councillor Ross?
Present, thank you.
Councillor Keysbrink?
Present.
And Councillor Brown?
Present.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. And all of the remaining items in the consent agenda have been pulled. So we'll move straight on to 10.1.2. And I will ask the author of the report, Shauna Cornish, Manager of Recreation and Culture, to just talk about the report. Then I'll have a motion on the recommendation and then questions. So Ms. Cornish, please.
Thank you, Mayor Drew. Just could take this opportunity to summarize the report. In November, staff were requested to prepare a report on our community halls in the township of Scugog to provide some historical information regarding the use of the community halls and the expenses and revenues for each of the halls. So staff pulled our information that each hall provides to the corporation annually for auditing purposes. So we reviewed the expenses and revenues from the hall information. And each year we ask the hall boards to provide us annual usage hours. So they had been compiled for the years from 2015 to 2019. We did not include 2020 numbers because we didn't feel they would be an accurate representation of a typical year due to COVID-19 shutdowns, closures that occurred. So it's mostly for your information report, but once we compiled the information and saw some statistics of usage and expenses and revenues, there could be a potential opportunity for us to speak to the user groups and the public regarding some of the identified halls to see how best they can be used within the community, and that would be done after the pandemic is over, when we have I think we all keep using the quote unquote normal year upon us, and to look to the future, but definitely would take place after the pandemic. So I'm here to take questions whenever we need to. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ross and Councillor McDougall have pulled the report. Councillor Ross, you've got your hand up. Will you make the recommendation, the motion on the recommendation, please?
Yes, I will make the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And is there a seconder? Councillor Keysbrink. Oops, Councillor McDougall. Okay, and your questions, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you, and thank you, Ms. Cornish, for bringing this report forward. I know I was very keen to see it come ahead in front of council. A couple quick questions. Can you just, under the hall ratings, the condition that you have here, can you just identify what very poor, what the cutoff for that is, and what that means in regards to Scugog Island and Caesaria's there also, but just in regards to Scugog Island?
Sure. Through you, Mayor, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, the master plan in 2017, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, identified the condition of each of our hall boards. The index that was used was the need for major renovation requirements of capital investment over the next 10 years. And at that time, it was identified that Scugog Island Hall would require over $55,000 of capital investment, whereas some other halls that were rated in good condition would require a zero capital in over the next 10 years. I'm not sure, Councillor Ross, what the threshold is in that. I have been looking for that kind of background information in the study, but haven't been able to put my hands on what the threshold is between poor and very poor.
Okay, so it wouldn't have to do with the actual required capital costs, given that Green Bank is much higher than Scugog Island, or does that play a part of it because Scugog Island is based off of the township?
I believe it has some to do with the capital investment, but of course, by looking at that, not Greenbank is rated as fair, but does require a little bit more capital investment. But I think that then they show what kind of revenue streams the other halls were bringing in at that time too.
Okay, great. And one more question to you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to see the township, I know this is going to be a bit of a lengthy process while we're waiting for feedback from user groups and for things to return a bit. But when we're looking at alternatives, I'd be keen to see the feasibility of the Scugog Shores Museum as an alternative. This is an area that the municipality has been putting money into, and based on both capital budgets will continue to put money into, and I'd be interested to explore if this could be an alternative to the Island Hall, given that money is going into it and we can further boost attendance there. So thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Ross, and that's an interesting suggestion. Councillor McDougall, you pulled this report as well.
Sorry, excuse me. Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for Ms. Cornish. The hall in question with regards to Seagrave Hall is in my ward, obviously. I lost a hall already earlier this year, Utica Hall, which was, although in good condition, required a lot of work in terms of there's no well, there's no septic, accessibility issues. The hall in Seagrave in question is actually in good condition, and it would be much similar to the building at Joe Fowler Park, where it functions as a washroom for the community space for the ball diamonds, etc. With my quick review of this, I believe that building is part of the under the official plan as CP, which is, I think, a park, and under zoning, it's under open space. So if we were to do anything with that, would you not require a rezoning for that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, maybe Director Heritage could help me out with this one a little bit, please.
Director Heritage?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, can the councillor repeat the question?
Well, sorry, thank you, Director Heritage. My question is currently that facility, the community hall actually serves as the bathroom facilities for the ball diamonds that are the park in Seagrave. So I'm just curious if we were to look at not having that hall in our ownership, would we have to rezone that in order to sell it from park to, I guess, development?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Without looking at the zoning bylaw, it's not in front of me, but I would assume that it's a community facility zoning, that it wouldn't prevent the township from selling it to another interested party. It would depend on what the proposal was for. If the proposal was for something that was permitted in the community facility zoning, then it would be permitted to proceed. It depends on the nature of the proposal.
So just, I guess, further through you, Madam Mayor, just a question is when we're looking at the considerations for the possible removal of Seagrave Hall, what happens with the park and what happens with the facilities that are at the park? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Personally, I think the talk of selling the hall is a little presumptuous, like early in the discussions. There's lots of different things we could be doing, but if that was determined as the outcome is to sell them, I would hope that the park and the ball diamonds could stay there through the master plan. Doesn't speak about any removal of those ball diamonds.
Yeah, just a reminder that this is a report that has been requested through our strategic plan. So there's no recommendation that we do anything other than receive the report and continue to monitor it. So anything further, Councillor McDougall?
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I just, I know I've kind of heard from some concerned members of the community in Seagrave, and I just wanted to follow up in terms of, what sort of provisions would be provided. I know having reviewed the report, that it's one of the more economical halls for the municipality to keep going. It seems about $1,500 a year is the operating cost as compared to the other halls. That's not very significant. I do have a question with regards to the report in general in terms of the hours that are reported by the halls with comparison to the revenues that are generated by the halls. Is there any sort of comparison between the hours reported and the revenues generated by the municipality? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Ms. Cornish?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. So, no, we ask them for their usage hours and they provide us the usage hours, and then the financials are provided to the finance department and sent on to the auditors. So there's no analysis between the two. The only thing in regards to the usage that I'd like to say is most halls have been doing this for years, the community halls. Seagrave, when we've asked them, they've taken it over the last 2 years. I'm not sure if they know to report the hours that their hall board actually uses the facility. So I'm not confident that those numbers are 100% accurate. I don't think there's a huge difference, but for example, the day they use it for their environmental day, Councillor McDougall, I think you're aware of. I'm not sure if they would be reporting on that. I think they report just on rentals, and that would be made clear in the future to them to report on all usage hours.
Okay, thank you very much. That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Shauna. First off, thank you very much, Shauna, for the report and respecting the fact that you have said that a further look will be occurring after the emergency has ended. I'm very glad to hear that, and this basically is more of a comment than anything. It can be said that if you take the churches, the halls, and the schools out of a community, you really are killing the community. So in what respect, the two that are mentioned, if I were to say to you, what can be done to keep them going from a resident perspective, would you have any suggestions for the residents? Or, I mean, I'm just putting it out there.
Ms. Cornish?
Yes,
through
you,
other
Madam
than
Mayor,
save the hall campaign.
Yeah. To Councillor Watton, that's one great idea. So one thing would be to use it more. I know the Scugog Island Hall has an association that they're trying to use the hall. They started that association just before the pandemic hit, a few months before that, and I know they were trying to put some yoga programming in there and yard sales, and through the pandemic that didn't work out, but they had some ideas. We just haven't seen them come to fruition, and we can blame the pandemic on that. In Seagrave, I know that hall board, that's a fairly new hall board too, the last 2 years, and they have some excited and well-meaning people on that committee, and they're on that hall board, and they were trying to organize some events. I mentioned Councillor McDougall because I think he's been in attendance with those, art in the park events and environmental day events there. So if residents can come out and enjoy those events that these hall boards are trying to put on, that would be great, and use it for their birthday party, showers, bridal showers. So the usage from a township perspective, I know we always try to look at additional programming in these standalone community halls. That hasn't had great success, because I think we tried to do a youth center, youth programming out in the Scugog Island Hall, and just people tend to not for that age group and demographic, the distance to travel was difficult or challenging. So we always have it in our department to kind of look at ways to program some stuff in these halls, some activities in these halls to get people aware of the halls and how great some of these little ones are. Thank you.
Right. That's great. And if I may, Madam Mayor, just one further question through you to Shauna. On page 3 of 6 of the report in the community halls total expense and revenue, it says that the operating grants vary from 3,500 to 8,200 per hall. Can you just kind of qualify what would constitute the difference?
Yep. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. That's a great question, and we've been looking into it to look at the history of it. It looks like it's dependent on their needs and their asks. So if the hall board doesn't ask, they tend to not get. So okay. If it looks like their needs, and just I think last year Greenbank Hall asked for another $500, and they were successful in that through our budgeting process.
I see. Okay, that's so. It doesn't reference anything to do with the capital project funding that we see in 2.4. It's just more, the hall boards are asking for more money, and if they can legitimize what they might need it for. Am I understanding you correctly there?
Yes, through Madam Mayor to the councillor. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all my questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any more first-time speakers? Seeing none, Councillor Ross, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, just a quick comment, just to Councillor Watton's point, in regards to getting some of these any of these halls up and running. We've had for a number of years now on the island, just to let council be aware of a group, Scugog Island Community Association, whose sole mandate has been to rejuvenate the interest in Island Hall, and they've been working hard at it with fundraising and everything like that, but we have not seen the numbers go up. So I think it's important to keep in our back of our minds that just because it's nostalgic doesn't mean it's the best way forward, in that if we have other ways to help the community out, that we should explore them. So although that's just specific to the Island Hall, and it may be, other halls may need some help along the way, but thank you very much again for the report.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to follow up on what Councillor Watton had spoke to, and in terms of, the halls receiving money that they asked for. But when I look at the list in terms of things that they have on their wish list, typically they're things that we are seeing in terms of repairs to the building. So it's definitely worthwhile us, and if we are going to keep these halls, to maintain, those sorts of infrastructures. The other thing is with regards to Councillor Ross's comment, in terms of the consideration for the museum. In my other work, I've professionally been over to the hall in East Gwillimbury. Sorry, the name escapes me, the big white one. But anyway, it's a lovely venue for many things, and the museum would equally match that in terms of a venue for different events. Anyway, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I see Councillor Kiesebrink's hand up. Do you have a question, Councillor Kiesebrink?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a comment, in light of our CAO's announcement with a new focus of Ms. Bowers in her new area, perhaps with all of the creativity and imagination and programming and heightened focus that she will give and expert care, perhaps this could be something that could be forwarded to her to say, with respect to programming, and when we have festivals and events, could some of the different items be located in our wonderful halls, because they are historic and they are charming. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kiesebrink. Councillor Watton?
Sorry, Madam Mayor. My hand should be down.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. I'll call the vote, please. Madam Clerk?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Guido votes in favor.
Councillor Ross, are you able to vote?
Sorry, I don't see it on my screen. In favor, thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we'll move to 10.1.3. And Councillor Brown, you have pulled that. Do you make the motion, please? Councillor Brown?
I do so. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Kiesebrink? Please go ahead with your questions, Councillor Brown.
Well, I have 27 of them, but I'll try to whittle them down.
Well, it's better than the 37 you had for the other one.
The longer we go, the more it grows.
By the time we get to the end of this agenda, you'll only have 2 or 3.
I'll be asleep by the end of this agenda.
Go ahead.
10.1.3, I've got it written down here. Scugog Community Rec Center for COVID, page 2 of your report. Relocating the pickleball program, this is to Ms. Cornish, to the dry pad would require temporary lines, etc. So are the pickleball people aware of this move? And if you're putting lines down, can they remain down on that surface? I know you've got lacrosse.
Ms. Cornish?
Yes, thank you. Through Madam Mayor to the Councillor Brown. I've had some preliminary discussions with the pickleball club for the relocation. There's a couple of issues going on. The executive right now isn't 100% certain they want to continue the pickleball program during indoors for COVID. They are going to speak further together and then let me know how they feel. So we can kind of move forward. There's other community recreation needs that if we start to go back to a different level in the Ontario reopening framework, their needs might need to be met too. When we speak about the temporary lines, I have been speaking to them. They would use painter's tape to be used. I guess I've heard it's sturdy for their play, but also the other sports can be played with them on the lines too. To keep them there for, I was going to say forever, but for to keep that as a venue for them to play on. I'm not sure if you're thinking long term there. They have had some concerns about, you know, the surface there and the how that affects their limbs. That's not a great sport surface for the type of sport pickleball is for their knees. So we're not really considering that as a future place for them to play.
Yeah, we've got a waterfront action plan going on too. So, all right, great. Thank you very much for the answer.
Thank you. Councillor Kiesebrink? Councillor Kiesebrink, your hand is up. Did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just trying to get my microphone turned on. Thank you for this report. I just wanted to say that I'm really grateful to the region of Durham for providing a very accessible vaccination clinic and locating it right in Scugog for residents. It's a really safe and ideal local choice, making it easier and safer for people and allowing them to not have to mix with other people. So I just was wondering, I'm not sure who the best person is, perhaps yourself or Regional Councillor Watton, but if we could just please pass along our appreciation for the consideration. And also, like all businesses who've lost revenue, you know, we'll be losing revenue in our facility. So to have the rental revenue from the region, it's not going to make up all the revenue loss, but it certainly will help. And I just appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. CAO or Chief Burney, would you like to comment on the revenue situation?
If I may, Madam Mayor, we are looking at providing this facility rent-free. We understand the majority of other facilities are being asked for or getting are rent-free, but I cannot independently confirm that. But I do know the province has been looking at ways to save money in this pandemic, and it would not surprise me. In my opinion, it is good leadership move for council in terms of providing this facility for the vaccination, regardless of rent, because it is important for our community. And we may not really be out of rent or be losing rent, depending on how we do get back with the reintroduction of programs. We may not be in a position to collect rent, or we may be, I don't know. But it is anticipated that there'll be no rent collected.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this report? Seeing none, I will ask our clerk to call the question, please.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Guido?
Councillor Guido's in favor. Thank you.
The vote is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we'll move now to 10.1.4, and that is street names for 2 subdivisions. And Councillor Brown and Councillor McDougall have pulled that report. Councillor Brown, are you willing to make the motion?
I am.
And Councillor McDougall, second?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, just a quick comment. I just want to thank Ms. Prentice for consulting with the Heritage Committee on this. Peter Vidston of the committee has done yeoman's work on the background of some very suitable and historically appropriate street names going forward. I know you have a copy of his work, and I know how important it is to the group at Heritage, of which Kevin Heritage is a member, that we continue to recognize the historical significance of this town, and we do it in street names. And that's it. Thank you.
The committee was named after Director Heritage, actually. Yeah, Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, for the chuckle. I just wanted to bring up one thought. I appreciate both the names here. I just have a bit of a concern about Kerry. Kerry Court is very similar to Kenny Court, which was named after, I believe, Bob Kenny. I'm just wondering if there's a possibility for a different name than Court, other than Kerry Court, Kerry Circle, Kerry something. Anyway, just a concern over confusion in the future, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have any comment on that, Ms. Prentice or Director Heritage?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. We can definitely look at the ending of the street name. Really, we're just trying to get Kent or Kerry. That is the name itself that would be approved, and we can change the ending or take a look at that. I would note that the region has also taken a look at the name and agreed to it, and they are typically looking for that as well, similar sounding names to avoid that confusion. So we're happy to take that back and look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the motion and the report? Seeing none, can we call the question, please?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Watton, are you able to vote?
No, it appears I'm not, so I'll vote in favor.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you, and we'll move to 10.2.1, and Councillor Kiesebrink, you had this polled. Would you like to, is there a question? Would you like to make a motion on this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would just like to endorse, just want to support our neighbors. Certainly, the ski hills are important to all of us, even though it's in Clarington. It certainly impacts our winter tourism, and we really want to see them survive. So if we can just pass along our endorsement of their motion as well. I think that would be good.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? I'm sorry, did I cut you off there, Councillor Keysbrink? You have something else?
No, I'm good. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McDougall, are you seconding the motion?
I will second that motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, did you have a comment or question?
I'm hoping that this isn't needed and the ski resorts will open soon. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Watton, did you have your hand up?
No, I was going to second Councillor Keysbrink's endorsement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments on this correspondence? Maybe I'll ask the chief, what are the current rules with COVID on this? Councillor McDougall had an announcement earlier, which I'd not heard about. Have the rules changed?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Drew. No, the rules have not changed, not as of yet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so there's no further questions or comments on that motion. I will ask to call the question, please.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, the vote isn't coming up on my screen, so I'll vote in favor, please.
Just waiting for Councillor Watton
And I'll do the same.
Councillor McDougall as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I vote in favor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
And that is carried. Thank you very much. We've come to sort of the end of our agenda. No items for separate discussion, no notices of motion, no new business. Before we adjourn, I would just like to say that, you know, the main topic on today's agenda was the budget, and I too would like to sincerely thank Terry Barton on behalf of council, who has worn two hats in the finance department for the last few months and has worked with all of staff to develop this budget. So well done, Terry. And thanks to all of staff, and in particular the CAO and senior management staff, who succeeded in the challenge of coming in under the new target. So thank you very much. It is still a draft budget, and I welcome all members of the public to take advantage of the public session tonight, the open house. Manager Laurie Bowers, could you give the information that is required to get involved in the open house tonight?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we'd be happy to. So residents are encouraged to please visit My Scugog. We have a budget 2021 budget page on My Scugog where no registration needed. You're very welcome to pop in a question there. Staff will provide an answer in the session this evening. We're just pulling together those questions. We also receive questions during, through our budget at scugog.ca. So that's our budget email address. Again, that's budget@scugog.ca. I will be monitoring the email during the open session this evening. And folks can tune in on our YouTube channel. That's the official Township of Scugog YouTube channel for 6:30 this evening to listen to the presentation and the question and answers.
Thank you very much. And what time does that go till? 6:30 till?
Oh gosh. I'm going
to say 7:30. Is that?
I'm going to say about an hour and a half. Yeah, depending on the type of questions we get in and the length. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Terry, do you know the end of this meeting, the time period?
Yeah, it's just after the presentation and all the questions that are answered. If we don't have any more questions, then we'll be signing off. So I would say no more than an hour.
Okay, thank you very much. So I encourage everyone to take part in the open house tonight. So thank you everybody for tremendous input. Thank you again to all of staff for the budget presentation tonight and for the reports that have been presented this afternoon. So Thank you, and I wish everyone a good afternoon for the rest of the afternoon until 6:30 tonight.
Mayor Drew, if I may, my hand is up, but I don't know if you saw it. I did want to say thank you to you. February 4th, all of the small urban mayors, including yourself, met with Premier Doug Ford and with Deputy Premier Minister of Health Christine Elliott to talk about the impacts of COVID-19 and in our communities. You really wanted to, vouch for our small businesses and talk about how critical it is to get those small businesses open. And I can't, on behalf of all of our community, we can't thank you enough for your advocation. I think, we all want our public, everyone to be healthy, but that also includes our small business community health. And I just wanted to reiterate again our thanks and appreciation to yourself for the work on behalf of our small business.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kiesebrink. That is an organization that's newly formed. We meet generally every week or two, and it's the small urban mayors of the GTHA. Traditionally, there's the GHTA members, but we as smaller municipalities, even though we're in the GTHA, do not get invited to these that are held, well, in Toronto, but now virtually. And so they don't speak on our behalf. However, so we've formed our own bit of an organization, and we've been very successful in meeting with Minister Elliott twice, and the Premier was with us last week. And we stress the importance of being very clear in their messaging, because sometimes it's not too clear, and we realize that they're having to turn around on a dime as well, and maybe don't think of everything. But like, for instance, the one thing was shinny hockey that we discussed with the Premier. With like, is it allowed or isn't it allowed? And he said, oh yeah, he said, the kids need to get out there and play. But of course, we have to be very consistent in wearing masks and keeping our distance, no organized play. So, there's those types of things are sometimes not very clear, and they need to be pointed out. So he very much appreciated hearing from us, and we very much appreciated having that time with them. So thank you for that recognition, Councillor Kiesebrink.
I think it really came out in the Premier's messaging today, his announcement today. He basically restated some of the almost word for word of the press release that Mayor Tom Marakis released as a part of that organization, talking about considering small business to reopen by appointment only as soon as possible, like even in the gray. So I just really appreciate that. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. And one of the things that I've certainly been promoting, and I can't take the credit for it happening, but they will be looking at establishing limits to the people going into business when they do open, to the capacity, rather than a blanket, 10 people, whether you've got 10 square feet in your business or whether you got 10,000 square feet. It just didn't make sense, and I've been promoting that all the way along, and they are going to be considering that. So that's really good news too. Some of that just didn't make sense, and it just goes along with the idea of sometimes they make these rules and announcements, and sometimes the fallout isn't too clear. So anyway, thank you, and thank you everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Sorry, Mayor Drew, could we get a motion to adjourn, please?
Yes, I would assume that's going to be Jana Guido, Councillor Guido, and Councillor Kiesebrink. All those in favor?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Kiesebrink voting yes.
Councillor Watton, yes. Thank you. And that's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. See you tonight.